Hello and greetings to all of our participants today from around the world, and welcome to our August, almost said October, let's not rush the year, our August version of our KTN training webcast series. Thank you to our sponsors, to Travel Outlook, the premium and premier call center support for luxury hotels, upscale hotels, really hotels of all around the world. Also Track Hospitality Software, makers of the Track property management system, especially for vacation rental condo hotels, and the Track Pulse call and lead tracking CRM. And we welcome you all. If this is your first time joining us, we do these once a month, and every month the topic rotates. We're going to start with a few shout outs to as we wait for a few more participants to join us. Then we're going to jump right into today's content, which lasts about 40 minutes. Before I do these every month, Julia, our social media and marketing coordinator, and I love to go through the list of who's joining us. I'm standing here alone in my little office studio in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area of Florida, staring at a webcam, but it warms my heart to think about people around the world who have joined us today. I know some of you have stayed up late in Europe, some of you, or the Middle East today, some of you have woken up early, or many of you may be watching the recording at a future time, because anyone who registers, of course, gets the recording. And maybe you'll be one of those who see it as a podcast on YouTube or listen to us on audio. But a few shout outs to acknowledge all the people who joined us. We always find it interesting to look at international participation. So a shout out to the St. Giles Hotel London, William, Director of Sales, plus a couple of your colleagues. Thanks for joining us. This was interesting. The Radisson Beach, Jumeirah, Dubai. I was just reading an article about Dubai in a travel magazine. Would love to come out and do some on-site training for you, Justin, for you and your team, not only on hotel sales, but other topics as well. Parkside Hotel Group, Valerie in Kyiv, Ukraine. Valerie, I think our paths may have crossed about 15 years ago when I did training for Premier Hospitality Group there in Kyiv. Your name seemed very familiar. My heart goes out to you. Stay strong. Fairmont Frontenac, we have several colleagues signed up, including Sophie, who wrote me this morning to make sure she was going to get the recording because she had another meeting. Sandals Nordia, hello, Sandals again. Novus Hospitality Stockholm, Johan, I think this is the first time we're seeing you. We have some students. We have students from the other side of the planet, Wen and Tai from the British University in Saigon, Vietnam. And we have Maya from Singapore. Thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to see young people interested in learning and advancing their careers in hospitality, perhaps even before it's already started. Now we have some clients. Angelica, Marquise Reforma, Mexico City. I'm so happy to see your name on our registration list. A general manager who is truly passionate about sales and marketing, especially sales. I love that. It's been 10 years since I was there doing training. I'm gonna have to reach out to you separately. Nizuk, I'll see you again in October. Roberto and Magdalena. Magdalena, I think you're on every webcast we do. Now, we have a lot of clients in the vacation rental industry, selling luxury homes and condos. And thank you for joining us. I know our topic today is on group and event sales. So if you do groups, if you book groups, you may find it directly relevant. But if you do not, you're probably going to find that the same sales skills we talk about here apply to acquiring new owners, so homeowner acquisition. And so, in fact, the training that we do in that space in the vacation rental company business is very, very similar. So I hope it's worthwhile. Abode, Mark, I'll see you hopefully this fall once again, my friend. Cozy Vacations, Christy, I've not met you, but say hi to Matt. We'd love to come back out and work with you. And Clear Creek, Chelsea, looking forward to staying in touch and get a chance to work with you. And Cry Lake, Carletta. Lastly, our management companies today, we have quite a few. Too many to call out everybody on this, but HVM, Jean, thank you. We have Desert Hospitality, Beth. Julia and I were looking at your properties. You have some amazing locations. Rosewood, Gabriella, Rosewood Hotels. I know you're a trainer, but if you ever have any conferences coming up, I would love to come out and do some sales training for Rosewood Hotels. And then Del Mar Hotels, very interesting Tanya, Director of Sales and Marketing. GMs, Directors of Sales and Marketing, VP of Ops. We had VP of Ops from the Margaritaville, Panama City. Wonderful to see everybody coming out. So let's get started in the interest of time. Today's topic is hotel sales habitudes for booking more groups, conferences, and events. So if you've been with us before, you know we do kind of micro topics in these webcasts. I have at least 5 other webcasts we have done on hotel sales, each of which probably focus on a segment of what I'm going to talk about today. But since it's getting to be fall now, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, and we're starting to think about budgets, even in the Southern Hemisphere, you probably budget according to the calendar, and we're thinking ahead about what are we going to do to hit those goals that owners will have. It seemed like a great time to step back and look at the big picture of what it takes to be successful. But first, let's take a look back. What is different today? Now, many of you are young and you've come into this industry. Maybe this is your first job in hotel sales. We had a lot of hotel sales managers today, and you're starting out. There's quite a few people that I know. In fact, Sabrina, hello, Sabrina from Track. I've known you for 25 years. You lived this with me, but there was a time that everything was about paper, phone calls, and of course, basic emails and websites. But in today's environment, we have these new tools that have emerged in the last 10, actually about 15 years now. Of course, Cvent, which has revolutionized the way people plan, send RFPs, requests for proposals for meetings and events. We have Groups 360. The change is not over, folks. Groups 360 is doing some amazing things with automating the RFP process, but also making it easier for people to do self-service booking of rather more simple meetings with smaller blocks of rooms and basic meeting requirements. They are big time on the scene. Your local convention and visitors bureau or other destination marketing organization, DMOs, they're probably sending you leads. If you're one of the branded hotels today, hello, Embassy Suites North, a lot of Hilton product on here today from other hotels. Brand.com sends you leads. Hotel Planner, your favorite. Get a lot of leads from Hotel Planner. Maybe not the most qualified. And then, of course, for the event business, weddings in particular, the Knot and Wedding Wire. So at a few clicks of a button, we get leads. Let's take a look back to the good old days. I don't want to age myself, but a lot of us may remember well that when more effort had to be made by the sender, leads were essentially pre-qualified by self-selection. So they would do more of the investigation work to find hotels, resorts, conference centers, and other alternative lodging. I'm going to say hotels today to keep it simple. So they kind of pre-selected, self-selected themselves as being a good fit for our property before they reached out. So we had real conversations, of course, emails. I've been emailing clients for 25 years. More direct email exchanges though that actually came to an info at, or perhaps even your name at yourhotel.com. So we could actually talk to people at the very start of the sales funnel. But today, meeting and event booking sites like the ones we just mentioned, Cvent, Groups 360, the Knot, Wedding Wire, they create a flood of leads for us, and they're not pre-qualified through self-selection, because at a few clicks at a website platform, boom, they hit that submit, and dozens of hotels get an RFP. Now, if you're with us from another industry, vacation rental, talking about homeowners, same thing. They can go online, do a search, and submit contact us to 10 different rental companies if you're in a market that has a lot of inventory. So wedding business, etc. As a result, with it easier to send leads to more companies, salespeople today can feel overwhelmed, especially if you're working in a sales role designed in your organizational chart for an era when the leads came in through phone or website inquiry. So in other words, to kind of sum it up, back then we had one piece of business generating 3 or 4 leads because it took a while for the buyer to go out there and self-select and do the research. And now, a few clicks of a button, one wedding, group, meeting, conference, one event generates 15 leads very easily. So more leads per piece of business makes us all busier. And yet, if you look at the structure of hotel sales, it's still the same as when I worked in hotel sales in the 80s at most hotels. And in some ways, it might have been cut back even more. So as an end result, we have fewer clicks at website platforms, dozens of people respond, and without that direct contact, it seems all we have to sell to are the completed fields in an inquiry form. And so this is where we are, August 2024. So, unchanged org charts, we struggle to respond to the hottest leads alone, just the hottest leads. And I know I have yet to meet very rarely meet a salesperson who isn't passionate about their job. And I know you're out there doing your best to stay on top of it. I see people taking home their phones and laptops and doing email at night after dinner when you put the kids to bed or after you go on your evening gym trip or whatever you do, pulling out the computer, doing emails from home just to struggle to keep up with the hottest leads alone. But it's even more difficult to do the follow-up after we respond. Now, I know this because we are also in the group and event sales mystery shopping business. So our team here does mystery shopping for transient sales, but also for group and event sales. And what we find is there's still a fairly high non-response rate, but most companies do respond pretty quickly. But what's lacking is the follow-up, especially consistent, personalized follow-up. Follow-up that is tenacious, but also personalized. It's a real challenge, believe me, I get it. And then what happens when revenues drop? Salespeople are suddenly required by the higher ups to meet prospecting quotas based on a set number of something. Some GMs or VPs are saying, give me 100 cold calls a month. Some are saying, give me 100 cold calls a week. And then you say, what's a cold call? What's a prospecting call? Some are saying, oh, it has to be a phone call, or it could be a phone call and an email. Some people are being sent out to knock on doors in the neighborhood, okay? Now, I know based on your geographic location, I think we have a slide coming up on this, but let me say it now. Based on your geographic location, that it may be different in your world based on where you are. But very often what happens is the calls go to voicemail when we're prospecting. First of all, try to get the right person on the phone. You know, if you're going to prospect a company, you're going to call a central number, and which you can find that online. You're going to get an auto attendant, and you're going to have to choose from the menu. It's going to be really hard to get a phone operator to actually refer you to the right person. Emails go to spam. You know, ever since Outlook came out with the Focus and other email boxes, which defaults when you get a new phone. I know I just got a new phone this week, and I know when also I got a new computer, and you just update your Outlook, and now all of a sudden our emails go to other. I don't know how often you check your other. I check it a lot because I'm a salesperson at heart. Or we try to knock on office doors. Try knocking at an office door. Now, some of you might be in small towns and it might be different, but you go to many corporate office buildings or complexes today. First of all, the doors are locked for security reasons. Or if there's someone there, or if it's open, there's no one at the reception desk anymore, because especially after COVID, but it's a trend that's been going on for a while. More and more people work remote or work hybrid. And also those that do work in an office, not too many have an admin assistant anymore. So they're doing that, you know, they don't need anyone to do the typing. There's not much snail mail going out. So there's just a lot of times nobody there to cold call. Again, it might be different. And I realize that some of you can do a lot of prospecting in person, okay? For example, we work with a hotel, mid-scale hotel, trying to find, additional group business. You can actually go out to florists. You can actually go to funeral homes when people plan a funeral, and a lot of times there's out of town relatives coming in. They need, by the way, where's a good place to put them up? I mean, you can really still get creative. You can go to meetups and, meet, and we talked about all these things in other webcasts. We have a whole webcast on prospecting. We have a whole webcast on actually networking in-person events, because that is a big opportunity. But what we're talking about today is the real world every day of the hotel sales that we live in. It's really hard to get prospecting. We're going to come back to that in a moment. Now, self-serving thought leaders who are usually either backed by the tech companies or working for the tech companies, they have a solution for us, and it's all about automation. Okay, now I write for several trade magazines. Maybe some of you signed up through Hospitality Net or Hotel Online or Hospitality News Resource. We actually, they're gracious enough to promote our webcast in all of those channels. Every month I write an article for all of those publications. So of course I read these every single day, and I see the headline about sales tips, sales training. Most of those are written by tech companies, and the solution for them is AI-powered prospecting and message campaigns, as well as drip campaigns to respond to leads. Now, I don't know if anyone has been the target or the subject of these, but I get them all of the time. As a business owner, I have a heavy social presence on LinkedIn. By the way, feel free to reach out to me there. But I will get direct inbox in-mail, and I'll get an in-mail from one person, and then I'll get another in-mail from, oh, hey, just checking in. My colleague Sarah here followed up, reached out, and I'm Chris, and I wanted to follow up. Or you'll get the same thing by email. There's, Sarah reaches out, and then Chris says, just wanted to jump in and pop this up to the top of your inbox. They're all using the same language. And to me, these feel spammy and generic, especially when they say, hey, I stopped at your website and you have a really great hotel and we want to help you. I'm not a hotel. So now, that being said, don't think I'm anti-AI. This is the time of year where we at Kennedy Training Network, because many of you are in hotels that are either full right now, end of summer, or it's vacation time. So things slow down in the training world this month, and this is the time that I delve straight into sales for selling training and selling conference speaking, selling on-site training, selling telephone and email mystery shops. So we're in the same world, and we do look at certain amount of AI and automation and drip campaigns, but you cannot rely on that to do the parts that only a human can do. It can help us, but it is not solely the answer. So if all this sound familiar, any of this sound familiar? If so, let's look at embracing new habits and mind-shifting attitudes for booking more business for what's left of this year, 2025 and beyond. This is excerpted from our full or 2-day hotel sales training called Hotel Sales Habitudes for a New Sales Habitat. But in our time in these webcasts, we're going to give you highlights. And as I mentioned, we have other webcasts taking deeper dives into each segment. Let me first talk about the word habitude. I actually thought I made this word up. It came to me one day. I was thinking about habits and attitudes. We need to combine the habits of discipline and the attitudes of positivity and personalization into sales. And I said, habitudes, I made a new word. Then I put it in Google. Sure enough, Merriam-Webster had already thought of it. Habitual disposition or motive behavior. So I love this word because I think it's what it takes to truly be successful in hotel sales or in any sales. Now, one of my favorite quotes, shift in your habitudes, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get the same business as everyone else gets, do the same things as everyone else does. And that's what's happening in our industry today. Do you know, other than the COVID years, we have had something like, let's see, the Great Recession was maybe 08, 09 to 2011. we had 13 years minus about 2 for COVID of record growth. And even this year, which has been a little softer in a few markets, has seen in many markets growth. In fact, the latest projections are that despite all of this, we're still going to grow our RevPAR next year. And so we have been very fortunate. But the more successful the hotel industry is, the more hotels they're going to build. And if you're in a really hot market and you have plenty of leads and you hit your goals every year, I bet you there's a new hotel or 3 under construction within, 2 kilometers, 2 miles from you right now. So I'm going to share with you a book I've talked about on other webcasts. I love this book. It was recommended by a client. Thank you, Andreas from Romy. And I call it, it's called Atomic Habits. And when he recommended this book, it reminded me of books that I read in the 1980s when I was starting my company when I was 28 years old at the end of the 80s. And it really talks about the habits we build to have discipline that apply to sales. So we're going to encourage you to read that one. So sales habitude number 1 that I had to share with you from our training and really supported by the book: take control of your schedule each day. What ends up happening, and I know it happens to me too, I walk into our office, you know, I could work from home, but I live near my house. I don't have a long commute. I drive over here, I come into my office, and the first thing that happens is the inbox. And we check that inbox, and there's things that are maybe not urgent, but maybe you're just a little OCD like me, and you think, oh, I'll just knock these out and keep that inbox clean, yeah? And then the next thing I know, 45 minutes are gone, and I have not taken on task number 1, okay? Which right now, task number 1 for me is focus on sales, micro marketing, and new business development, because I have 3 weeks of no travel. Very rare. So rather than reacting to those emails or pop-up notifications, block out time every day and plan your day so that you close out those distractions to the extent possible and make that time. Do not find the time to sell, but make the time to sell. Okay, so whatever is reasonable for you. It could be, and maybe you prefer to block out a half a day for prospecting. And I'll come back to this at the end, but really in general, not just prospecting, you need to block out time every day for following up on previous leads you already responded to. This is the biggest weakness of our hotel industry in general, and also in vacation rental, going after owners. And let's see, who do we leave out? Well, really hotel companies going after new properties to manage if you're from business development at a brand. And so, or some of the tech companies that have joined us today. Thank you again, Sabrina from Track. You've got to follow up on the business that you had before. Sometimes it's timing, trace them out for a few months, retry. And then research sales activity to identify new leads from previous sales. This is one thing I do at least a couple times a year, is to go back in the files from the previous 6 months, and at least once a year, the deep dive to look for who have we not talked to, who have we not reached out to, who have we not called or emailed that could be overlooked, and conducting those proactive prospecting. So remember, as we review the rest of the tips, when product, price, and place are essentially the same, it's the people that make the difference. You are your hotel's superpower when it comes to building new sales. You cannot out-tech the competition, but you can outsell them. And if you step back and think about what's happening in the hotel industry, you know, brands have been very quick to copycat one another. So you will see brands, and I don't want to call out a lot of you on the call today are with brands, but you know, if you take a look at one sub brand of, what is it, like, I don't know how many Hilton and Marriott each have, but they tend to copycat one another. Even within the same segment, full service Marriott, full service Hilton, full service other W or a Sheraton, well, those are Marriott now, or Crown Plaza, they are gonna look very similar in terms of product. As far as place, they may be very close by. Now, if you're a destination hotel, yeah, you have a really cool location in a remote area, in a ski resort or a small market, but there's other cool remote areas in destinations in small markets. And in terms of price, with all the revenue management and pricing technology out there, we are all copycatting each other on price. That's one of the big discussions in the field of revenue management right now, is if we all go to AI powered tools, we're going to be copying each other, and to a large extent. So, you know, right now where we're at is we have similar looking product. Now in vacation rentals, a lot of times we have gone to having more of a generic decor that one, you know, which is kind of good, because you don't want to have very obscure home decorations in homes that people, you know, not everyone's going to like. So more and more things look alike. What makes the difference? It is the people parts. And the more technology takes over in the lodging industry, the more important each interaction becomes. So let me run through now a few more sales training tips from our Habitudes program. Again, many of these, we have other webcasts. By the way, all of our webcasts are at YouTube. They're available as webcasts, also as podcasts. You can also find us coming soon. They will all be distributed through Spotify. We have publishing more and more each week right now. So we need tech solutions. Do not think Doug Kennedy is the anti-tech guy. I started out in this world on no card sales, which a lot of us used in the 80s, but as soon as the 90s hit, I was using Act and Goldmine, and as soon as the cloud-based CRMs came along, like Salesforce, I was all in. I actually use one called Zoho to this very day, which is really amazing. It's actually becoming more and more popular and recognized. And so in the hotel industry, for group and event sales, Delphi FTC is the big player, built on Salesforce, but you also have a lot of our clients are using salesandcatering.com or Event Temple, and there's a few others out there too. Go all in with your CRM, because you just think about it. Before you chased a few leads, a lot of people printed out that inquiry, or if it took a phone call, they had an inquiry prospecting form and they put it in a manila envelope, a manila folder, and they had a stack on their desk. Do you know, when I do sales audits, where I go out and sit, if larger hotels have me come in and I sit with the salespeople and look at what they're doing for follow-up, a lot of you still have a stack of RFPs on your desk that you printed out with notes. But when there's one person, one piece of business generating 3 leads, and the leads were pre-qualified, that kind of worked. But when at the push of a button, one piece of business generates 15 leads, there's a lot more leads floating around. So if you're going to follow up in a way that is tenacious and personalized, you have got to embrace your CRM. Now, if you are getting our newsletter, we did an article I think 2 months ago, maybe last month, what you really need your hotel sales CRM to do the essentials. If you would like a copy of that, email me at Doug@Kennedy Training Network. I'll give my email at the end. But these, you wanted to do the basics really well, okay? And so that will allow you to give up the paper trail. I hope your desk doesn't look like this, okay? There are times during the day when I do take a lot of manual notes, but I don't wear the bifocals. I have contacts, but you want to have a Zen feel to your desk. And if you have everything organized in your CRM, then you can sleep at night. How many of you right now can relate to this? It's 2 o'clock in the morning and you wake up from a nice dream in your comfy bed, and all of a sudden you go, did I send that email? Oh no. And you forget something and you're not sure, and then you can't sleep the rest of the night, and you look the next day and you send it, okay? Or maybe you didn't send it, even worse. But if you have a good process that you can trust, you can juggle a lot more leads. Unfortunately, a lot of people only use their CRM to book meeting and event space, okay? And the reason is because they have a messy CRM. I don't know about you, but the first thing I do when I look at a new upload of a version of a tech program is I turn off all those alerts. I just got a new Samsung phone this week, and everything wants to send you alert, push notification. If I did that, my phone would be beeping and vibrating all day. It's the same at our desks. Now, if you use Delphi and some of those other systems, when a piece of business, a lead comes in, it populates auto tasks. And then you never even want to look at your lead stream. I literally sit with salespeople, wedding sales, group sales, national sales, association sales, and I ask them to show me their lead stream, which they don't use because it is filled with auto alerts of past due events that are not even relevant. So a lot of it means getting with your system administrator and turning off those auto alerts, or just deleting the ones that don't apply for that specific group of business. All right. Now, the next thing you want to do, again, these are from my recent article, enter those right side leads, all of them, into your CRM, and then continuously add the notes from the conversation. So if you are lucky enough to get people on the phone, okay, put the notes in. By the way, in our other webcast, I'll give you a reminder, we love Calendly. I use Calendly. It's a scheduling app. It makes it easy for people to talk to you so you avoid the back and forth. It's also free, and it integrates. There's a free version. The paid version has a few more nifty things. But you try to have more conversations, make more calls like we're going to talk about, and then enter those notes, because there's too much going on to keep it all in your head. Attach or copy key emails. Some of the CRMs, you can send the email through the CRM. It attaches to the contract record directly. Sometimes that emails get better deliverability if you send straight through your Outlook. In that case, either copy and paste them, or print them as a PDF and attach, or put the notes in there. But your CRM needs to be updated. Would you ever like to truly take a day off? And, or how about a week off where nobody called you, because everything is in your CRM? And also, when you refer back to it, maybe 6 months later, or maybe a year later, because you didn't get that piece of business, but it's a recurring meeting, you have all the details that you can be personalized and not generic. And retrace a next step. There really should always be a next step, unless it's a wedding, okay? A next step, if you got the piece of business, follow up afterwards to ask for referrals. If it's a recurring piece of business, for hitting them before the next booking cycle. If you lost the piece of business, check back next year for next time. If it's a wedding, okay, I've had this debate with people. Well, hopefully you're not going to trace them out in 5 years to see, you know, hey, maybe they got divorced and they want to get married again at the same hotel. I don't think that would be good. Asking for referrals from someone who got married there, because most people, you know, he doesn't want to get married to in the same venue that, I'm sorry, his friends don't want to get married in the same venue where he married his partner, or she may not want to go back and marry where her friend got married to the same place. So, you know, with the exception of weddings, there's pretty much always a next step. Now, even if you lose the business, your revenue manager is on the call today. You will love when I say this. Enter that lead anyway, even if you decline it because of the rate request was way below what you thought, or even if you decline it because you're already sold out. This will allow for better forecasting of demand, enable you to also retrace that business for the next time, okay? So that's our best source of leads. Now, respond to all leads. Here's where we talk about org structure again. This is really hard to do because you think about the staffing at most hotels. We're still staffed for the 1990s, early, the 20-aughts and the 2010s maybe, where the leads came in pre-qualified, fewer of them. So we have not added a lot of staff. If you are at a mid-scale hotel and it's you're the director of sales, and maybe if you're lucky you have a salesperson, or maybe it's just you, okay? Or maybe you're at a 300-room hotel, full service, upscale, you have a director and you have 2 salespeople, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Who's really got time to respond to every lead? I don't know. You can certainly respond if you put your arms around the CRM, if you form new habitudes, you can follow up on the good leads, you can follow up on the hot leads, you can follow up tenaciously. What about all the other ones that we perceive to be junk leads, right? There's some golden nuggets in there. It's like taking the grains of sand and putting them in a sifter and sorting through them. At the bottom of that pail are enough little golden nuggets. You put them all together, there's business there. So think outside your silos. Your helpers may be outside. Is there someone else on your team? Is there maybe even a overnight person? You know, night audit used to be a lot more work when we actually had to do a lot more auditing, but so often now you run the audit, it is more automated, and especially sometimes a year. Could they do more prospecting? You know, with Outlook, you can trigger the emails to go out during business hours. They can do prospecting emails, they can do research. Maybe you have somebody that's new to the industry and they started at your front desk and they will work their way up into hotel sales. So think beyond that. Now, if you're a hotel company or a regional manager, this is where there's a lot of opportunity. There's wonderful young people. I know we're interviewing right now for an entry-level salesperson. I've interviewed yesterday, 2 days ago, I interviewed an 18-year-old student entering college. Amazing. Let me tell you, they're smart, they're hungry. Don't believe what you hear about this generationalism, another topic I love to write about. And so there's people out there, there's retired people. Another candidate for the job we haven't hired yet is a retired person that owned his own real estate company, just moved here to Florida. So there are people that will do this work, and there are golden nuggets to be found in all the leads that are being put aside because either you're sold out. Well, maybe every other hotel is sold out. Send a note, make an in-app message response in the platform, or email them or call them and say, hey, I regret to tell you we're sold out. And I know you said your dates weren't flexible, but what might happen is all the other hotels are sold out and they say, you know what, actually we'll be flexible. Or maybe they say they don't want to go above a certain rate and your rate is much higher. Well, send a note back or make a call and say, hey, I know you wanted to be, I'm just going to say $100 rate. Our rates are going to start at $200, but keep us in mind. Maybe they're going to find out that everybody in your destination is charging those higher rates, okay? And so these are how, or the leads that just say, send me your prices or send me a quote and I need 50 rooms and a meeting, and they don't really tell you much. You think, this is a waste of time because they didn't even put dates. There's a lot of opportunity. Now, sales cadence for the leads we do respond to. The original reach out for sure. Of course, we want to respond. Now, the myth is you have to be the first to respond. I've talked about this many times in articles and other webcasts. That is a urban legend. It is the person who responds with the most contextualized proposal, not necessarily the first. I'm not saying you want to take 2 or 3 days to respond, but it's better to give a personalized response to a request for proposal that might take you 1 day than to be the first one back with automated, spammy, generic, okay? Now, if you need several days, send a note like, hey, I got your RFP. I'm checking with our revenue manager on availability because we have another group while holding those dates, but I'll be back with you. Great. Well, when you respond, reach out approximately 3 days later, 3 business days, then 1 week later, and 1 week later after that. I think 3 follow-ups is generally a good rule, but don't just keep sending an email or don't just keep leaving a voicemail. Vary the medium, email or direct message in app. So I'm talking about message them back in the platform. Call them. Sometimes very rarely they say do not call. But even if you say do not call, and you can call and say, I know you said not to call, but I just had a couple of questions that's going to help me give a more contextualized response, okay? And people will generally really appreciate that you want to respond with a personalized way. Email them again or direct message. Handwritten note are fantastic in today's world. What is old is new again. When is the last time you got a personal handwritten note? And then if you've been on my webcast before, you know I'm a huge fan of video email. You can use Vidyard or BombBomb or CoVideo. Vidyard, I know, still has a free version, and you can send a video email, a video message that actually is dropped right into an email. This is one I used for a client we ended up getting, the Hazelton Hotel, Toronto, a five-star hotel, to Ashish, who asked me for a sample of the video email. So they'll actually see your smiling face and a play button. It's under a minute. They're going to notice that, okay? So think about that. Now, when you respond, don't be generic. How do we not be generic? Take a moment, paraphrase and restate key details from the introductory paragraph. You know, maybe AI will eventually be able to do this, but we've used AI here. It comes up with some bizarre things. By the time you load the parameters into AI and then you read what's coming back, sometimes it looks really absurd. So the automated RFP platforms right now simply start out with, thank you for your inquiry, and following is a quote, or we're pleased to hear from you, or congratulations on your wedding, your big day. But instead, take a moment, paraphrase and restate something they included in their inquiry. It's probably a written inquiry these days, contact us form, a CVent inquiry, and let them know that you have taken note of that. This is what we're looking to do to integrate automation with personalization. So if you are using an automated response, read it before you send it and change that first paragraph. Also, if you're sending online proposals, there's several companies now doing online proposals. You have basically a website link that then opens a PDF, which they can also print. Insert their logos in there if they're from an association or a school, sports team, or a company. And then delete content that is not relevant. If they're not having any meal functions, don't include the menus. And if there's no children and you're a large resort, don't have the section about the family activities or kids clubs. If you're selling a same-sex wedding, do not have pictures of brides and grooms. Have a picture of a bride only or a groom only. Or if you're really smart, you have stock photos now for your hotel of a bride and a groom and a groom. And so that's just one easy example. Now, to finish up today, proactive prospecting, I call it the ultimate habitude. Again, if you are a regular, you know we did a webcast on this. If you're new, check us out on YouTube. We have one on this specific topic. Here are some highlights. I believe prospecting requires more discipline, more so than skill. Okay, maybe people would say as much as skill. I know a lot of very skilled salespeople who don't have the discipline to make prospecting. And I know people with very little sales skills that get out there and work hard on prospecting, and they actually bring in more revenue. So the skills alone won't do anything unless you make the habits. Make the time for prospecting. This is what I started to say earlier, whether it's 20 minutes a day, whether it's a half day in the middle of the week, whether it's Friday mornings or Friday afternoons, is prospecting time for you. And make that time for prospecting. It's something I myself have to remind myself to do. For me, it is generally time of year. There's a few times a year when I'm not on the road training, which is August. July, I'm not on the road. I'm usually on vacation. And then in August is the time for my reach out. So some of you on this webcast today will be hearing from me in a prospecting call, especially some of the names I mentioned earlier. And then of course around the holidays. But we do have people here that it is their job all the time to prospect, because I can't do it all. So what is prospecting? It is not just how many calls you made, how many emails you sent out, but it also includes researching before you reach out. Better to do 10 well thought out, well-researched prospecting reach outs than 100 spammy messages, 100 paid emails on LinkedIn, or 100 random phone calls to voicemails that are never even going to get listened to. So GMs, VPs, when you mandate prospecting, understand that mandating research time is a lot of the prospect. That's part of prospecting, okay? And sources. First of all, the best leads you have are the ones you've already received. Check back with lost business. That's one of the things I do at least the 2 times a year. I go back and audit, who do we not get? Most of those are already retraced in our Zoho CRM, okay? So if you're starting out, you got to do this, but if you've been doing it right for a few years, you won't have to do it as much anymore. Reach out to previous clients. This is something that we try to make part of our process with our Zoho, but sometimes it's good to go back and think again and, you know, reach out to people. Hey, remember me from last year? I worked with you. I'm reaching out to see, is anyone else at your organization, your company, your association? Are they doing any other meetings? Do you have any other people in your network? I always be humble. We talk about this a lot in this class. You know, don't just say, you know, please give me referrals. I'd be very grateful for any referrals you can give me. When you ask people in the right way for help, most people, they want to help you. And so we can cross-penetrate those large organizations. So research before you reach out. Now, the other resources that you're going to use are going to vary by what type of hotel you are. So are you, and classification. So are you a resort? Are you a hotel? Are you a lodge, a remote lodge? And are you upscale, luxury, ultra luxury, mid-market? So if you're a mid-market brand, you might go and knock on doors in your rural neighborhood. If you're in a corporate hotel for business travelers in a major city where all the buildings are smart buildings and the doors are all locked, it's not going to work for you, okay? But some of the resources, Nolan, I have had a lot of clients, I've spoken at Nolan conferences. They have honed their data reports. Nolan goes out and looks at reader boards in lobbies for whatever business has been booked there, what other events are being held there. And my understanding is they then try to, based on which meeting room that group or event is in, they can tell how many people on an estimate are using rooms. Zoom Info is a paid subscription. It helps you target companies. LinkedIn Sales Navigator, I have used all of these tools with my clients. We've used this one personally, and so it could work. Industry specific news. So you can read what's going on in your area in the business sections. You may I get a newspaper digitally, okay, granted, not actual mail, but also sign up for all those blogs and local news websites to keep you abreast of who's moving into the area, your local business news sources, okay? Also, Boolean searches. If you don't know what a Boolean search on Google is, then Google Boolean search. Go to pages 3, 4, 5. Let me just give you one example before I let you go. You can put in annual meeting, Lexington, Kentucky, my hometown, as an example, and you come up with down here, annual meetings that took place in 2023, 2022. Well, 2010 is a little too far to go back, but you can look at these associations and companies that have an annual meeting in your town when you add in this case, parentheses or brackets to narrow it down even further. And if you look down there, you will find companies that met 2 or 3 years ago, and you can reach out and try to get them for next year. So I hope this has been helpful as we finish up here. Thank you for joining us for Hotel Sales Habitudes for booking more events, groups, conferences, and acquiring more homeowners. We hope that you found this helpful. If you do want to refer back to the other topics, again, our YouTube channel, future topics coming up, we have our next one is on inbound reservation sales into outbound follow-up opportunities. If you're a luxury, upscale, resort, hotel, or vacation rental, join us on this date in September. We're going to look at the tricycle guest service, which is a fun way to explore teamwork in October. And then in November, based on my new article, which is publishing this week at CoStar, Customer Hospitality, it's bigger than guest service. We'll be talking about making hospitality truly part of your culture. Here's a screen cap of our YouTube channel. They're all coming out as podcasts as I speak this week. We launch more every week. Please reach out and let us know if you're interested in on-site training, private live webcam training, our telephone mystery shopping, or scoring of recorded calls and our individual webcam coaching. So here's my email and also our web address. I'm just going to expand over here one more time. Wow, so many of you have stayed on for the entire session today. Thank you. I hope to see you at our future KTN webcast. We hope to bring value to you. Thank you to Track, Hospitality Software, and Travel Outlook for being our sponsors, helping us promote these and getting the word out to you. Thank you again, everybody. Happy Friday and have a great week.